Welcome to my channel. Today I am making a kaftan with basket weave yoke using the Simplicity 5628 vintage sewing pattern as the template for our sewing project. Let's go. I am making the shorter variation of the kaftan. I cut off 1 yard and folded the 2 yards into a 4-fold as you see me do on your screen. I am using the front pattern of this vintage sewing pattern because both the front and the back patterns are exactly the same. Place the pattern on fold as you see on your screen. Ensure you take your time to place the pattern correctly because once you start cutting, there is no going back. Please use fabric weights when you are working with knit or stretch fabric so that you can get an accurate cut every time. Measure 3 inches and mark on the fabric as you see on your screen. Then you connect the markings and cut. Next, mark the 2 corners of the cutouts as you see me do on the screen. Then you mark the 2 corners of the main fabric as you see on your screen. This is very important because those markings are the guide to connect the yoke to the main piece later. I wanted a higher neckline, so I added 1.5 inches to the paper guide for the basket weave yoke. Then I added 1/2 inch sewing allowance to the edge of the paper guide. Add the markings on the sides of the paper guide as shown on your screen. Next, draw the sewing guidelines for the basket weave on the paper guide. I am using 2-inch spacing. You can use a smaller spacing for your project if you so desire. I think 2-inch spacing looks much better in my opinion. Because I made the neckline higher, I will need to have an opening in the back of the kaftan to allow my head pass through when I wear the kaftan. Next, we cut out the strips for the basket weave. I used 1.5 inches in width and 58 inches in length. Before you sew the strips to the paper guide, please make sure you fold it as you see on your screen. Place it on the edge of the lines, that guide line. You see? Yes. Place it on the guide line and then you can start to sew. Take your time. This particular process requires you to take your time because as you continue to sew, you will notice that the paper might fall apart. It depends on the type of paper you are using. I ran out of craft paper, so I started to use this one. So just take your time and sew. As mentioned earlier in the video, you will cut the back of the guide after you have sewn on the vertical and horizontal lines. This is where the closure will be added. Tear off the paper after you sew on the strip to the edge. It will create a nice clean edge. Then follow the same process for the other side. After you've done that, then we will add the neckband. See how I left a little piece, 1 inch of fabric at the edge? I'm going to show you how. Yes, I left 1 inch of fabric. This one we're going to tuck and roll it to finish the neckline, so it will look nice and neat. Now you see, after sewing the first part, we're going to cut away the paper. As you see on your screen, you tuck and then you roll it over and sew. This process requires you to take your time, so you don't break the paper. Just take your time. After you've done that, then you iron. This is the easiest part so far. You iron it, and then we connect the yoke to the main piece. Remember those markings I told you about? Now, this is where the markings play the important role. You connect the markings of the yoke to the main piece. You see the markings? Then you now connect them using your pins, sewing pins, to connect. And that is the opening. Yes, and you sew it round. Now this is the fun part. You take your time, remove the paper, tear off the paper guide. Now this is what you have. I am adding a snap button closure to the dress. Then, because I used a stretch fabric to make this kaftan, I stitched each side 1 inch tighter than the instructions that came with the sewing pattern. Because I want the kaftan to have a snug fit, I also added ruching to the side of the kaftan to give it something extra. Please let me know if you want me to create this kaftan using a non-stretch fabric like chiffon, cotton, satin, etc. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.